is the fees that are being charged to private pay or private insurance, or in our case, self-funded plans, is growing exponentially. And so from his chart, you see on the cost of healthcare that this Medicare, Medicaid chart is kind of going flat, and that insurance or private pay is escalating at just an astronomical rate. I met with our insurance company. We went to a meeting with them the other day. I don't have the answer for you today, but I will tell you that the increases here are, in my opinion, just not sustainable for anybody. And so I really don't know what the answers are. It'll be an absolute top priority next year to try to figure out what else we do. You're even mandated to make sure that your plans meet certain thresholds. And if you don't offer insurance and they don't meet certain thresholds, then you're fine. And so, you know, it's just kind of, it seems like at every turn of things that you would do to try to control costs. One of the things that we've heard that we are not currently doing that I think we absolutely will probably do next year is eliminate any coverage for an out-of-network physician. Right now, we have a greatly reduced coverage, but most cities are just eliminating that completely. We have a spousal surcharge. If your spouse has insurance and they choose to take our insurance, we charge you an extra fee. Some cities are just absolutely eliminating spousal coverage if it's available elsewhere. There are a few more, what I would call very punitive things we can do, but we're running out of options, and so I don't really know what that answer is. But I'll tell you, and of course, the way our plan is structured is that the employees are seeing that increase on their side, but the city is seeing the increase on our side, because basically it's kind of a 75-25 split on that. So we're seeing that on our side as well. I'll get off the soapbox, but
I think you need to stay on this a little longer. I mean,
our family coverage for Plan A, the total cost is right at $2,000. An employee pays $500. On that's Plan B. I'm sorry, Plan A. The total cost for a family is $2,352 per month, and the employee pays $702 per month. An employee here pays towards their own premium. Their Plan A, they pay $242 a month, and their Plan B, they pay $174 a month for employee-only coverage.
How do you communicate that? Is there a newsletter you're able to do internally?
We have 3 days of meetings, and they'll be actually week after next, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, so that we can hit all of our police fire shifts. And we stand right there in that council room and talk to them face to face every single year for 3 days. And then we have, of course, there's a whole packet of information that's distributed to the spouses and the families that are whoever might be at home.
But that's just kind of like, here's what we're seeing, here's what industry looks like, here's what everyone else is doing.
There's a letter in the front of that packet from me that kind of tells them where we are, what we're changing, what we're doing. Then there's the details of the rates, there's the details of the plan, and then all the backup for what's covered and how they get to the benefits and enroll and so forth. So, but we do that each year. But I don't know what that answer is, but I think we have to look at absolutely everything. We have tried to stay self-funded because obviously we have no profit built into ours whatsoever. I'm certainly not opposed to looking at the fully funded plans. I just don't know what we do. We just continue to look at it. So, we talked about our equipment replacement, our depreciation funding. We have been, for many years, we funded our equipment at 55%, and we did not fund anything over $75,000. Well, a few years back, we started trying to fund our over $75,000, but again, only at the 55% level. So that's obviously creating a deficit in our equipment replacement fund that we have to make up when the time comes to buy the equipment, and we usually go to the car rental fund to make that up. But we this year have been able to increase our depreciation funding for all of our equipment that's less than $75,000. We now have it all depreciated at 100%. Our items that are over $55,000, they're still at 55%. So the last step in getting that right would be to go ahead and be able to get that last piece of the over 75 funded at the true 55%. Then our equipment replacement fund would be actually depreciated. We depreciate over the expected life at exactly what we think the replacement cost will be, plus what we think we can get for salvage. So we're trying to collect just exactly what it's going to take us to replace the car, truck, whatever it might be when the time comes.
Excuse me, it goes into a fund.
Yes.
It's called a replacement fund.
Yes,
So when you replace these $1.2 million vehicles this year, they're coming out of that fund.
the fire trucks were not for many years depreciated, so everything comes out of that fund, yes. I'm gonna talk about a fire truck in just a minute, that's gonna be an exception. Yeah. I talked about the fire truck, that's gonna be an exception, but in general, yes, if there is a police car that we've been depreciating every year along the way, when it's time for its replacement, Kyle takes the money out of equipment replacement and buys it. So if the car is expected to last 5 years, we take the expected cost at replacement, we collect that amount each year for 5 years, and then he takes the money from that and buys the car. The same with dump trucks, the same with everything. The problem is that over the last few years, we weren't able to do that on our large pieces, like our fire truck and the fire trucks, and like there's a few pieces in public works, like pavers, things like that, that were enormously expensive.
Well, it looked like it was a 21-year-old paper.
Yeah, but we get along like.
Very good, yeah, that
one. And we started depreciation, I think the table we actually were able to, because we kept it so long, we were able to actually get it depreciated, and we do have money to replace it.
So
So,
when we see $70,000 increase in equipment replacement,
yes,
eating up some of this revenue we're getting from.
that is correct.
That's because there's additional equipment that we buying this year?
No, it's because we are funding it at 100% instead of 55%.
You gotta make it whole, we should.
Except for those over 75,000. That's because we've done an analysis on that and looked out many, many years, and what you're headed towards if we don't change that funding level, we're headed to bankruptcy at some point in the fund. You know, you can't always replace at 55%. At some point, you're not gonna have enough money. So, the effort is to get it back to 100%, eventually get those over 75,000 pieces in there at 100% instead of 55%, so that you're not always in a deficit position on your equipment.
We've been trying to do that for 10 years.
Mr. Bynum, we've been trying to do that, I guess, for 20 years, because it goes back to previous
You will see when I got here 21 years ago.
We've been working, trying to do that for a long time. Again, so I would tell you there's an example of an increase in the expenditure. We're not adding something we weren't going to buy in the future. We are accumulating the money
We need.
that we need for the future.
Right.
Right, that's what
We're
we're
using
doing.
this windfall revenue. Part of it.
To fill in those gaps where,
For the future, we should.
and I don't want to ever sound like I'm being critical of prior administrations and what they did. You did what you had the money to do, and we've always said every year along the way, you know, if they could, I think at one point it may have been a little bit lower, 45, and they were able to get it to 55, and you'll see the same thing with street overlay in a minute. Along the way, when we've had opportunity to increase and to add in the over 75, even though we weren't able to get it at 100%, we got to add it in 1 year. So it's kind of looking at your budget and filling in where you.
Yeah, it was definitely 41 when I started on council.
So, I mean, we've been making these efforts along the way. These are not new strategies. I mean, these are strategies that we've been attempting to do, but without the growth, without any significant growth, you don't have the ability. The very next one is a perfect example of that, street maintenance. You all saw the PCI index last year that said we have to do $900,000 a year in street maintenance just to maintain the current condition. That's not to improve it, that's just to keep where we are. Construction costs have obviously been escalating, so what I've been hearing from Hal and Chris is if we don't increase that to 900,000, we're going to be able to do less and less. So we really have to start trying to move that 900,000 up, because at some point, 900,000 doesn't buy what 900,000 bought 3, 4, 5 years ago. So this year, what we've done is what we had in there before of the 900,000, the same strategy we've been trying over the years, was to get money into our baseline budget for street maintenance and not be dependent upon excess revenues or one-time money or worst case scenario debt for our annual street maintenance. You don't want to be in a position of trying to issue debt for your annual street maintenance. And so we had only been able to get $300,000 into the baseline of the 900,000. And I would tell you in a recession, that's the first place you go when you start cutting, is, it's easy to start cutting maintenance, but then you're deferring that for the future. And so with this budget, what we're recommending is that we add an additional 50,000 to allow us to have a total of 950,000. We think that will just simply allow us to continue at the same level and not start losing ground because of the inflation and cost of construction material. And then we've been able to move 175,000 more of that into the baseline. We have an offsetting reduction of 175,000 from our one-time money. So of the total 950, we will have 525,000 in our baseline now. We will still be dependent upon the one-time money for 425,000. Next year, with the growth we hope to have coming from Glade Park, I would tell you that right after personnel, and pay plans and insurance and things like that, I would hope to be able to move another 100,000 or 200,000, where at some point, our $900,000 of street maintenance is in our annual budget, or 950,000 is in our annual budget. That's not discretionary. I mean, you cannot do it for a year or 2 years or 3 years, and at some point, your city will be deteriorated and you'll be looking at a big giant bond package to try and redo your whole city, and that's just not a prudent way to do business. So we want to make sure it's in there.
And I don't even know if 50,000 even keeps you up with prices, because what I'm seeing in our parking lot work on both asphalt and concrete is we're looking, compared to 2 years ago, we're 15-20% higher than it was back then.
You have a very good point. It makes progress towards, but absolutely, and Chris and Hal will tell you, we've got to keep.
It just stops the bleeding a little bit, but we're
We've
still.
got to move that
behind the
upwards, or
curve.
we're going to start losing ground and not be able to keep our roads properly maintained. And to me, that's, our police and fire and our streets are some of our most basic functions. That's what we have to do.
Now, we could do some things like we did with the HA5, and if that turns out to be the win that we think it is, whereas seal coating usually lasts a year, and this stuff seems to be theoretically lasting 5, 6, 7 years, that can be a huge win for us. That might be able to help us with the stopgap. And going through and on the streets that are in the 75 and better range now, spend the money on HA5 because it's the same price as seal coating. And you can then delay those streets because it seems to really protect it based on what we've seen, the limited amount we've seen and what they've been doing in other states. And it could be, and I don't know if they've ever actually moved down here. They're supposed to have opened up a plant here this year, according to what they said last year. I don't know if they have or not.
But Hal has found an additional company that does a very similar process that he's going to do some of this year. Just, again, part of that trial piece is that
Yeah.
we're always looking for,
But I'm
we've
gonna-
done stuff in the past with the county.
Seeing like Harwood and Shadowland, and I know what, my parking lots, what they're like a year after seal coating, these things look almost brand new, whereas a seal coated parking lot looks like it did before you did it after a year. So
Well,
I think
certainly
that
there-
could be a real win for us.
The goal is to spend the money as wisely as we can based on that PCI study to do things that are going to help prolong the total reconstruction as long as possible. So that's an effort we will obviously continue. So if we kind of keep a little running checklist, we need to get that, those pieces of equipment that are greater than 75,000, we need to get those depreciated. We need to get our street maintenance in there properly. We also still have some personnel needs and then our insurance. That's kind of things that we look forward to in the future. Rebates, obviously we have some contractual agreements associated with some of our new business in the city. So as our sales tax grows, we have additional rebates. So in the budget, when you see that our increases we have an additional increase for rebates or incentives, that's directly related to the fact that those businesses are producing more sales tax. If they produce more sales tax, they're entitled to a higher rebate. So we obviously have to budget for that. So again, that can look like your budget is growing. Well, your revenue grew by, let's just say $100. If you had a contractual agreement to give back 25%, if your revenue grew by $100, you gotta give back 25 more. So your budget's going to grow by that $25, but your revenue grew by 100.
Right, your net's
So-
still
So
75.
you're still netting the 75. So you will see that we have sales tax rebates, we have hotel occupancy tax rebate with the DFW airport for the Hyatt Place. That is related to our DFW agreement. And so with the Hyatt Place coming online, you'll see that our hotel motel fund looks like it went through the roof. Well, most of that's coming from the Hyatt Place. We have to rebate 2/3 of that, so you're gonna see an offsetting expense. So I don't want anybody to think that we went crazy with that.
Before you leave hotel motel, places that I know that several years ago now that we did this big audit of people that are basically been living in these hotels for 12, 13, 15 years. I know the one across from the barber shop. It must be new ownership now because they're actually painting the thing.
We'll talk about that
Okay.
on Saturday, we have a whole discussion.
But there are people, I've been going to that barber shop now for 6, 7, 9 years, I guess. They're the same people coming out there, yeah, you can see them, and they're living there. And I know that it doesn't pass code for a residence.
If you will allow us to hold that discussion on Saturday, we can have a full discussion on that. The irony of it is the Lighthouse Motel, which is gone now, so I'll talk about them a little bit. They pay hotel motel tax faithfully every month for those residents.
Probably hourly.
And, well, a lady had lived there, I believe it was 17 years. But they paid their hotel motel tax every single month. So from a hotel motel tax audit, when you would go in to say, are your residents living here? Or, because the theory is if they're more than 30 days, they don't pay hotel motel tax. They paid it. But the resident, from our records, had been there for a really long time. They're gone now, but Great Western has its challenges too, so we'll talk to you a bit more on that. And then janitorial services, we have increased that based on our current operator has said that they cannot continue to perform the service for the bid they had, so we'll be rebidding that, bringing that to you in the fall. We're expecting a sizable increase, probably about $30,000. It's about a little over $100,000 contract.
How many actual bodies do they bring in?
In this building, it's always 2. I think it's just the same 2 everywhere, but it's like 2.
I deal with numerous pretty big janitorial companies. If you want, I'll give you the contact and let them bid too, because it wouldn't be $30,000 total for multiple bids of it.
So, but we would be happy to have names because we have struggled to find.
Well, what do we?
Remember, there's a lot of buildings to
But
clean.
what do we pay per square foot?
Mr. Stenford, I
You're
couldn't
supposed to
get
know.
the venture, yes, what we pay.
Well,
We're talking, it's the police building, it's
I
the
can't,
city
but
buildings, it's
that
Texas
the
Star.
industry uses price per square foot in their bids. So if you're paying,
We bid it out, we tell them every facility, the
if
frequency.
you're paying more than 6, let me know. Because everybody that I use is under 6 cents a foot.
I'll
Well,
be happy to have those things, because what we'll do is we'll make sure that they get a bid packet.
Yeah.
Because ours is a little strange, with multiple buildings, they're cleaned on different schedules, some are certain nights, some are other nights, some require a higher level of cleaning. It's kind of complicated, but we're looking for the person that did the best job at this price, so we'd love to have
you
more.
got your rec center, senior center, I mean, there's a tremendous amount of facilities and square footage to be cleaned. And one of the things we did as a cost cutting measure is on Thursday night, we get no service in this building. Now, we just did that to reduce costs the last time around. So different buildings have said we can opt out of service on certain nights or whatever.
All of ours do 5 days.
Yeah. The nets, I'm going to have a full discussion with you on that on Saturday as well. That's our Northeast Transportation Service. The ridership in that has been growing exponentially. They have asked for an increase from 70 cents per capita to $1 per capita this year. And we'll have to have a discussion about the future of that and what we do to control that cost. But I believe that was an overall hit of about $30,000 as well. So that's going to be some of what you see in the line item. I think that's all under the professional technical. But that's our contractual agreements where you just have agreements that are going up. And y'all know that's the service that's provided to the senior citizens and the disabled to transport them And then, water has been extremely challenging, gonna keep being a challenge. There, basically, all you're gonna see pretty much in the water is the 3% pay, 3.25% pay package, the insurance increases, and the increased cost of TRA. There really just wasn't much room for anything else in that budget, I think, other than maybe depreciation, I think is in it. With that, we need $1 on the base rate for water and wastewater. And then we are recommending just a direct pass-through of the TRA increase on the volume side. TRA is going to increase our cost to purchase the water by 20 cents on the water side and 13 cents on the wastewater side. That's exactly what we're proposing to increase the customer's volume charge by across all the tiers. The $1 on the base and the water and wastewater will help us with our costs.
Here, I got the first one.
And and then we are recommending, we got a nice rebate from TRA this year. I would not tell you it's because their actual costs were less than budgeted. It's because of our percent of system, but we got a rebate, so we are recommending a 25-cent rate stabilization rebate. So that was only 15 cents last year. Those are obviously only for the one guaranteed for the 1 year, but it absolutely does help. And so we are recommending to rebate 25 cents, and that's on the first 15,000 gallons.
And the rest of those rate stabilization fund, is that still doing this?
It went up because of our rebate, that's why we are offering more. We have, if you approve this 25 cents, we would still have 1.2 million. And what we look at is trying to make sure we would have enough in there to cover at least 3 years or 3 to 5 years, so that you don't just, the one thing we could do is we could get a giant bill from TRA instead of a rebate.
Yeah.
And those bills can actually be $300,000 or $400,000 or $500,000. We also don't want to have to raise your rate to try and recoup that from customers. So what we feel very comfortable with that, with the fund balance that we have in there and get a full 25 cents.
Have you heard any comments from other cities about the tiered rates? I know Colleyville just did away with theirs. And I know we're not in a drought, which is the reason we actually did to start with. We're actually trying to sell more water now. I don't know if it's worth.
I will say
Discuss.
that Colleyville's doing this great study to rate, that ultimately I believe, and I believe their staff thinks that they will have to raise their flat rate, if they've gone back to a flat rate. I would tell you that I went in and did an analysis of a water account in Euless of someone that I knew was opposed to the tiered water rate. So I just happened to pull up their account and I did their analysis on the flat rate that we charge. We have a flat rate, we charge to commercial. And I did their tiered rate. They would have paid more under the flat rate than they did the tiered rate, because if you think about it, the only time this customer is paying the tiered rate is in July and August, in this particular case.
Or when you put a yard in.
And, well, you could put a yard in. But the other 10 months, they were benefiting from the lower rate. And so when I did it under both methods, and I wanted so badly to call the customer. They did not know that I knew that they didn't like the tiered rates. And so, but I just did the analysis for my own peace of mind to see, and they would have paid more under the flat rate. So again, I've not obviously analyzed folks in Colleyville, and I know they have very large yards and they do lots and lots of watering. I think Betsy said she was at one of the meetings and heard a customer stand up and say that her water bill was $1,100. And I mean, they're watering too much.
Betsy also
So,
tell you what the new council member's comment was to the $1,100?
That's too much.
No, the council member said, we have to help them with that bill.
But you can't water. You can't, I mean, if you water like, I mean, I am a person who has to water. I have a larger lot. I'm not one of those people who loves the small lots, and so I have to water that. But I would, and I've not done my own analysis, but I would be happy to and even use that as someone that probably does use more water. But you're only paying that higher rate basically for the summer months, and then you're enjoying that lower rate for the other months. So I would venture, if you do that and you go back to the flat rate, that for the most part, you're just going to change when the person pays the money and not necessarily, I think the overall differential is going to be minimal.
But it would probably be the same reason some people use the electric bill. I pay the same amount. I pay $212 every month of the year. It's easier to budget that than it is to all of a sudden have a $1,100 water bill.
Yeah. So, but that is, we don't have a lot of revenue in those upper tiers. That's not where you get your revenue because there's not a lot, we don't have the big lots like the Hollywood, so.
You got it from me.
When you put a new yard in or pool in, you'll get things, so, and then, equipment replacement fund, I want to talk about, we talked about that a minute ago. We are currently running 1 Quint and 2 engines frontline in our fire department. We have, a 2002 platform and 2 Quints in reserve. We have a Quint on order now that you all have approved that will be delivered in October. And when that comes in, that will go frontline. And the Quint that we currently have frontline will go reserve. That will still leave us 1 Quint frontline, 2 engines, and then we will have a 2002 platform and 2 Quints in reserve. To quickly back up, make sure everybody knows the lingo here. The platform, think of it as a fire truck with a bucket. A Quint is a big truck with a stick ladder, and Mr. Bynum will make fun of me. And then the engine
It does 5 things, the truck just does.
We'll make it sound.
Okay.
Yes, it has.
Everybody required you can go, you grab the stick ladder.
In the day.
It has no bucket. And then there's the engines. And so, if you'll recall, again, I will be very clear here, not being critical of any former decision, because a few years ago, our fire trucks were in such disrepair that a decision was made to not replace a Quint with a Quint, but to instead take that money and buy 2 engines. Because at that time, we literally got into a position of having to borrow fire trucks from Bedford, and we were calling DFW to see if we could borrow a fire truck because our fire trucks were literally not available because they were in the shop for maintenance. So this is not very long ago, because you got 2012, 2011, 2012, because the first engine came in 13 and the second came in 14. And so with that decision though, we went down a Quint. And at that point, we ended up with those 2 engines and 1 Quint running front line. Our fire department was very concerned at that point because they were very concerned that they no longer had a bucket truck running front line. Our bucket had gone reserve. And we said, that's fine, we still have the bucket truck. If you have these fires in these large apartment complexes, you can go pull the 2002 platform out of reserve and bring it to the fire, and you still have access to a bucket truck. You all will recall in 2014, there was a recall on the Sutton platform. It went out for repair and was out for quite a long time, came back, it failed its inspection, had to go back again, it came back, it worked for a few days, had to go back again. Since 2014, that truck has been out of service 730 days.
Wow.
It has been in service 103 days. So we have over 250 3- and 4-story structures in our city. I think the number is about 260. And if you think about apartment complexes, that does mean that 250 apartment complexes. You have multiple buildings in a complex. So there's 250 plus of those. And we also have a number of big boxes, your Home Depots, your Bell, your Lowe's, that they need a higher water pressure per minute, gallons per minute pressure, that they need to be able to have. That they need to have a bucket to be able to access.
Oh, yeah, you don't want to go with a stick ladder.
They really don't like rescue people on a stick. They will tell you they can perform a rescue from a Quint ladder, but they much prefer to be able to do a rescue from a bucket truck. They will also tell you they would much prefer to fight a roof fire when they have to be up on over a roof from a bucket than they would from a stick. And have to be up on a roof. So, stick.
Good.
So, anyway, so, long story short, y'all, there's one more component to this. We are under our ISO review right now. And there's a couple things. The ISO standards set our rating. You all know right now, we are one of 30 or so cities in the state of Texas that has an ISO 1 rating. And they have standards of what obviously they consider to be a